It's the first day of school, which is musical theater slang for the first day of rehearsal. I am not in a musical. I am not doing Man of La Mancha or Guys and Dolls. I have been cast in a serious Shakespearean drama, Macbeth. And I am playing a very coveted role in that show, Murderer 3. And Macbeth is a hard play under the best of circumstances, but this is a 2013 production of Macbeth, so naturally it takes place post-apocalypse in a Mad Max world where everything is just done. And as we're blocking and we're getting into rehearsals, my director will say things to me like, you know, Chris, when you're on stage, you're very tall. When you're in that scene, you're very present. You're very broad. Like he's trying to say something, but I can't quite figure out what he means. And we're in tech, and it's very stressful because there is fire and violence and blood flying everywhere during the show. And after a very harrowed note section, he pulls me aside from the group and he says, "I've been trying to get this through to you, Mr. Pappas, but when you are on stage, you are acting too gay. And if you don't stop acting this way, I'm going to take away your lines and I will put you at the back of the stage." And like getting fired from a role that just has 3 lines, like in some ways it's kind of like more insulting than getting fired from like a lead. And I walked out of the theater, like back behind the green room, and it's January, but I'm in Alabama, so it's still fucking hot. And I am in black combat boots, on my costume, black combat boots, black studded skinny jeans, a black torn tank top, a leather harness, and a long dreadlocked wig. And I just burst into tears. And I'm like holding the wig like away from my face because I don't want to get it wet because that wig's worth more than I am. And I'm just like, you've got to pull this together. You've only got 5 more hours of rehearsal. You can do this. So I pull myself together and I get back inside and I get through the rest of the day and I get back to my apartment. And I have like a full Lady Macbeth breakdown in my apartment. And I pull my bag out of the closet and I grab all of my clothes and I'm stuffing my clothes in my bag and I zip it up and I get to my front door and I just scream at my front door and then I take my bag back into the room and I unpack all my stuff and then I scream at my closet. And then I do this about 4 or 5 times. And by that point, I've totally lost my voice because I've just been screaming at inanimate objects for the last hour. And I go into the bathroom and I'm sobbing and I'm hitting my sink and I'm looking at myself and I am ugly and I am worthless. I am as ugly as that note that he gave me. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, that's what he meant. It's not about being gay. It's like, this is an ugly play. This is an ugly story. Make it ugly. So I go back to rehearsal the next day and I completely lost my voice, which as a trained actor is like kind of impressive. And I'm like, okay, I'm like making some changes to my character today. By the way, can we add sleeves to my costume? I really think that would help butch things up. And they do. And so my first scene, I walk on, and instead of being Chris, I give myself a hunchback, and I turn my foot in, and I kind of waddle onto the stage. And everyone's looking at me, but the show just goes on. And at one point, I have to run onto the stage because Lady Macbeth faints and I have to go pick her up, so I'm like hobbling onto the stage and I like hoist her up into my arms and I carry her down and I look at her and I go, you know, we could just keep running and we wouldn't have to do the second act. And she goes, I know, but we can't. And so that became a ritual where we would pretend to run away with each other every night. And good was the note that I got. It was just good, which was fine with me. If I could just get through this, they would be totally fine. And so it's time to leave the theater and we're having exit interviews. And the director of the show sits down with me and he says, I understand that a note that I gave you was a little upsetting to you, which was an understatement, but I just let that slide. And I said, yes, giving the note that somebody acts gay isn't fair, because who I am in real life is not who I am on stage. It's the same as telling a black actor you were acting too black, or a white actor you were acting too white. An inherent part of who I am, that's not a note, that's not acting. And he said that he understood, and he thinks that moving forward it would be something that he would certainly keep in mind. But acting too tall, that's probably a note I'm just going to have to get used to. Thank you.